Hello, I'm Matt Pettit, Chief Scientific Officer for IMT Matcher, and I'm delighted to be joined by an extremely experienced and highly respected embryologist, Chelsey Leisinger. Chelsey's been a practicing embryologist since 2013, and she's now Vice President of Laboratory Compliance for the CCRM network of fertility centres in the USA. And prior to that, she was the lab director for the Ovation group of clinics. So welcome, Chelsey. Thanks very much for joining us. We really rely on your wealth of experience to try to understand the industry, and it's also been invaluable to us as developers of quality management systems to really address some of the more problematic areas of IVF that IVF professionals are currently facing. So with that in mind, Chelsey, with all that's changed as the profession continues to rapidly evolve, could you share with us, in your view, some of the more difficult and challenging areas within the modern landscape of embryology today?
Yes. So the IVF cycles in the 21st century have become much more complex than they ever were. Increased number of embryos produced, increased use of PGT. Many clinics in the US mandate 100% PGT. Insurance coverage is covering PGT, so it's being widely used much more than it ever was before.
How do these additional challenges really impact on your work, and how do they present any extra risks that perhaps weren't there before?
Yes, absolutely. So the extra risks would be proper identification of these embryos through all of these different steps that we have to do with these enhanced cycles of difficulty. So PGT, you assign an individual identifier to an embryo, to the biopsy piece, to the embryo, upon warming, making sure you're transferring the correct one. Additionally, increased use of time lapse. So it may not always be a PGT embryo that needs to be individually identified. It may just be an embryo in a time lapse incubator with proper developmental stage, so you need to know which embryo met the proper development at the proper times and is the one that we want for transfer. So tracking all that information at the embryo level.
So do you see electronic witnessing systems like Matcher as being a useful tool to minimise these challenges and perhaps mitigate some of the risks?
As the IVF field has developed and progressed and changed, Matcher has also developed and progressed and changed. Having the embryo level traceability that Matcher has had for a few years now has been invaluable, and continual development to ensure that we are matching the proper embryo with the proper piece and then warming the right one and transferring it to the right patient is key to mitigating risk, and Matcher enhances all of that in the laboratory.
That's great. And a question we're often asked about is in relation to the use of non-matcher barcodes. So particularly to use your example in a kit that's used for biopsy, often the question is, if there's already a barcode there, can Matcher read the barcode? Can it assign that barcode to the patient? And then can it be used in subsequent witnessing steps? That's actually a feature that we have developed in the new version of Matcher. So do you think that could help further?
Oh, absolutely. That will help to ensure that we are matching the pieces to the straw. It's also really going to enhance the embryologist's workload in the fact that it's going to minimize. We're not going to have to put a Matcher label on the tube. We can use the label that's already on the tube. Many of those genetic kits, the tubes are already labeled for us, and then being able to move forward rapidly through that cycle, because efficiency is everything. Additionally, being able to scan, if you get an embryo shipped in from another clinic, being able to scan that barcode and knowing that you're getting the right embryo, from the right piece, from the right clinic, for the right patient, is going to be a valuable tool as well.
Okay. Anything else you could think of that you might be able to use a non-matcher barcode for?
So we have some embryoscopes in use at CCRM, and that was actually one of the questions when we were implementing Matcher is, can we use the barcode that's already on the embryoscope dish and then be able to link all of that data together? And so that's going to be very useful to just be able to use the barcode that already exists on those embryo slides versus having that embryo slide barcode, adding a Matcher barcode, making sure that the barcodes match, the patients are the same on the labels. So just, again, enhancing the process and streamlining it as well. We're not going to have to stick another label on those slides.
Great. That's testimony to the beauty of the barcode as well. I think the fact that they are ubiquitous, they're kind of found on everything, even dispensing a medicine to a patient at the point of dispensing, could be something else we could use it for example. So let's change the subject just slightly. I remember from previous conversations that CCRM specifically identified perhaps a weak link in the chain of custody where, yes, appreciating that we are matching patient identifiers, there was a specific request to be able to match specific items of labware through the process. And that's another example of an area that we have listened to the problem and we've developed the solution to the problem. And I'm delighted to tell you that it's now ready for release, so it will become available. Do you think, could you elaborate a little bit more on why that's important?
Absolutely. We're very, very excited about that feature and cannot wait to start using it once our release is updated. The nice thing about that is we want to make sure that you're bringing the proper dish back to the bench. So you want to make sure that you're matching your retrieval dish to your denuding dish, and then the next step is your denuding dish to your culture dish, or making sure you have a sperm tube in your ICSI step rather than just scan 3 barcodes on 3 pieces of labware to meet the required steps in that process. Making sure that we have the proper dish and tube at each step is going to enhance the traceability and the functionality and the data that we're acquiring.
You do speak a lot about the benefits of real-time data capture, and you've actually published some papers recently which demonstrate how useful having that data at your fingertips is. What about notifications? What about being able to notify lab managers, for example, in real time that there has been a mismatch or a non-conformance? Do you think that's something that you could benefit from?
Absolutely. A lot of times a technician has to search maybe around the clinic to find the lab manager who might be in a meeting or talking to a physician or doing a procedure. So being able to have that notification automatically happen so the person can continue with their critical procedure at the bench, but still have the notification, and then it can be rectified and reviewed later as long as, nothing critical has occurred. Very, very useful, again, in streamlining the efficiency of the IVF lab and making sure that we're, getting our procedures done in a timely manner and not lengthening an embryologist's day. They're already long to begin with.
Well, thank you very much, Chelsey, for sharing your perspective with us, and especially for highlighting some of the challenges around embryo level traceability. That's been really insightful. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.